Okay. I think...
I see a little recording button on.
I see it as well, but now I just have to make sure that the... Oh, okay. So does everyone see the presentation now as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Then I think we're good to go. I'm going to put everyone on lecture mode now. And Ermin, you're going to start, so I guess when Lynn and Keith get back on, they'll be in part of the lecture mode. Let me turn that on.
The conference is in lecture mode.
And now I'm going to turn it over to Ermin to begin presenting.
Okay, great, Kara. And good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ermin King, and I am not only a SOC consultant and the manager of the Pennsylvania Cultural Access Project for VSA Pennsylvania, but I also direct hospital and hospice programs for ArtStream, a nonprofit in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. I'm going to provide the first part of our presentation, which will be an introduction and a rather global overview with the caveat that I cannot be comprehensive, of course. And then the second part of the presentation will allow us to look at a more in-depth case study with the Matheny Arts Access Program, and that will be provided by Keith and Lynn.
Thank you, Ermin. We're back. We were gone for a minute, but we're here. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, great. Thanks for letting us know. For starters, as you all know, I'm sure, there can be physical, economic, and attitudinal barriers within healthcare and other institutions when it comes to creating programming for persons living with paralysis. In this webinar, we're going to look at some wonderful examples of moving through those barriers with tremendous momentum, and we'll see exemplary programs, strategies, and solutions that reinforce cultural values of inclusiveness within healthcare and other organizations. We have an example right on this first slide. We see an easel angled for ease of mouth painting, co-designed by the arts coordinator and artist Marlene Moore Alexander, and she was coordinating arts programs, or has been, for St. Charles Medical Center in Bend, Oregon and Redmond, Oregon. And the gentleman shown who has quadriplegia, which I'm sure you all know is paralysis of all four limbs, both arms and legs. So this easel was co-designed by both individuals. The gentleman shown was injured diving into a river at 38 years of age. He hit his head on a rock, broke his neck, and was immediately paralyzed. The artist, Marlene Moore Alexander, worked with him for 5 years, and he became a talented mouth painter, even exhibiting his work in the hospital. And through this, he made enough money to pay for a used van with a lift on it. So providing access in the arts can have tremendous repercussions for lifestyle as well. I want to again acknowledge, as Kara did, our generous sponsor, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, and seeming to be apropos, the artist shown in the Superman t-shirt is another of the individuals with whom Marlene Moore Alexander worked. He has paraplegia, referring to paralysis from the waist down. He preferred working with wiki-stick sculpture over painting, and this was an asset to him as his hands were weak and he needed the extra fine motor coordination work. A recent study initiated by the Reeve Foundation indicated that nearly 1 in 50 people in our country live with paralysis, approximately 6 million, and of these, approximately 1.3 million have SCI, or spinal cord injury. I found it interesting to see from this same Reeve Foundation study what the major causes of paralysis were reported to be, and you can see that the big three are stroke, spinal cord injury, or SCI, and multiple sclerosis, of that approximately 6 million person pool. In this slide also we see a little more about the work of Marlene Moore Alexander and the gentleman using that adaptable easel for mouth painting. Marlene has pointed out to me that this easel needs to be straight up, as he cannot lean very far in, although she adjusted his chair, table, and easel to make it work. She built a piece attached to the right front of the easel with slots for his brushes to lay in, and he could lean in just enough to take them with his mouth, and it worked very well. She, instead of using one of the brush holders that fits in his mouth, she shrink-wrapped his brushes in biomeds, and this way his mouth didn't get tired. She also cut down the brushes first, as the longer brushes made him have less control of the paint. So there was a lot of experimentation involved in the process of collaborating together to make this mouth painting process optimal. More from the Reeve Foundation study called 1 Degree of Separation showed that varied types of accidents accounted for most SCI, and you can see that those who reported were largely males. In fact, they were almost twice as likely to incur SCI as females. And 7% of those who reported paralysis as a result of accident or injury reported that it took place while serving in the military. So serving military populations and veterans populations is an important subset of the group we're talking about. Just as a brief but important consideration, I wanted to look at the access paradigms that have evolved over the past 20 years. Here we are in 2010, the 20th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, so it's a very good time to be updating our ADA plans, moving forward with our access and inclusion processes, and we want to do more than what was originally the paradigm, barrier-free or accessible design, which was simply complying with the minimum requirements of the ADA and often resulted in separate and stigmatizing solutions. Today, the paradigm that's accepted is universal design, or UD, and this means that with a very broad lens of consciousness, we create solutions usable by the widest range of people to the greatest extent possible without, as much as possible, multiple separate adaptations or designs. And this applies to environments, programs, and products or resources. We look at both accessibility, the practical solutions, and inclusion, which is the perspective or the framework. And in this brief image here of the art stream, inclusive and accessible performances, not only are actors with paralysis invited to be part of the performance, but accessibility is provided, making it possible for them to do so in rehearsal space, in use of props, in the actual theater performance space. All people experience benefits of engaging in the arts, but I think given the unique, often unique circumstances of those who've experienced paralysis, the benefits become all the more significant, because we know that people who've had paralysis may have encountered a shock, the abruptness of an injury. They may have gone through denial, anger, pain, depression, and gone through a grueling physical and cognitive re-education program. And working in the arts not only strengthens their motivation, expressive range is broadened, but their identity can shift dramatically from that of an individual who has a disability to a survivor who is an artist with expansive interests, goals, and projects developing, and a ripple effect of being involved in a wider social context, breaking down isolation, and thereby enhanced independence, freedom, and as we saw with the artist who was the mouth painter, even income coming in. Individuals with paralysis engage in all of the arts modalities, and we'll look at examples of that. In the visual arts, this is an innovative interactive art-making system developed by the named artist. And the wheelchair movements are detected by infrared signals and then projected as lines onto a screen in real time. I thought the title of this particular work, Going Home, with a color symbolism, each color representing a family member awaiting the artist at home upon discharge, was very poignant and very meaningful. Here you see the overview of how the digital wheel art system works with the infrared device on the chair and incorporation of Nintendo Wii Remote, Bluetooth, drawing software, and then the feedback loop from the screen to pick up the movement and register it visually. And we can see a variety of digital wheel art users in this slide and the color choices available to them. This digital wheel art system has also been exhibited to allow persons to gain disability awareness who are not themselves paralyzed, and I have seen it exhibited as such here in Washington, D.C. Another project, the iWriter project, won actually the best prize in Ars Electronica recently, a best award in the digital media arts field. And this was developed by an international team working with the artist, the graffiti writer, publisher, and artist Tony Kwan, who himself developed ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, in 2003, enabling him to draw only and have movement only in his eyes. This team uses a low-cost eye tracking apparatus and software to develop really a community of individuals, software developers, persons with ALS, hardware hackers, urban projection artists, etc., who can creatively connect and make eye art. And in the inset piece, you see an example of the graffiti created by the artist using this system. Some tools that have been around for quite some time, developed by Dwayne Zotz of Zott Arts, Arts for All in Bayfield, Wisconsin, can be attached right to chairs or appeal in many cases to children and youth, as you can see here from this image. And I hope you're noticing that at the bottom of each slide, or incorporated into the slide, I've included websites for further research on these projects. Now, moving on to the theater arts, ArtStream, as I mentioned, for which I work, includes individuals with paralysis in theater, and one of the approaches that is pivotal to this work is not only providing the access, but creating the role specifically for the individual actor, making certain that their abilities are highlighted. Often a mentoring cast member who can complement the abilities of the actor with paralysis is blocked or choreographed into the production as well. In the realm of dance, Dancing Wheels is but one of many integrated, meaning stand-up and sit-down dance companies, and they also do workshops. And they are really marvelous teachers and workshop leaders. I've experienced this myself. The National Arts and Disability Center in California has quite a list of other integrated dance companies who can come in and lead workshops for artists with and without paralysis. I found in working as a dance movement specialist in healthcare myself at Children's National Medical Center that when I walked into the room of an individual with paralysis, I sometimes had to help their organs move. And I would place a resonating instrument like a Tibetan singing bowl or an ocean drum right on the abdomen and allow this to help stimulate a sense of dance in the parts of the body that could move. Another exciting movement project for persons with paralysis has been created by the Stuart Pimsleur Dance and Theater in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Meaning in Movement, using creative movement with stroke survivors. And it's taking just a while for the next slide. Again, in movement, the sound beam, which is on the left, you can see an individual in a chair using it. It's a microphone with ultrasonic particles that come out, and it's attached to a MIDI-compatible keyboard. The artist, when moving in the arc of these particles, can control sounds that have been set on the keyboard. They can also control lighting patterns, and in the sensory studio to the right, they could control fiber optics and even the bubble tubes as well. The sound beam in that slide on the right, or that image on the right, is actually part of a vibroacoustic bench. So if a person is deaf as well, they can pick up the vibrations to help stimulate their movement and the reinforcement from the sound. I wanted to look at some comprehensive arts programs with multiple arts modalities in them. Inglis House in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which works with or is a residence for young adults with disabilities, has just a very comprehensive programming using the arts modalities shown. You can see their visual art gallery, an example of one of their resident neighbors using a mouth painting technique in the bottom right. They also have an international poetry competition and word gathering, which I have the website on the slide below, is their poetry journal, which also displays a great deal of the art made at Inglis House. I mentioned veterans and the importance of working with them in the population of those with paralysis. The Center for Health and Learning in Brattleboro, Vermont, received funding from SAW, Johnson & Johnson, and the Educational Foundation of America for the Art of Healing Loss, Applying Expressive Arts Techniques in Veteran Healthcare Settings project. They're going to train two cohorts of broadly defined mental health providers to work with veterans using this arts-based approach and to help them address PTSD, trauma, and grief. Of course, many of the veterans have paralysis, so adaptive arts techniques will be integrated into this program, and an art exhibit, manual, and evaluation findings will result. The training dates, although the January 2011 date is not exactly known yet, are shown there for those who are interested. And I just wanted to include a couple examples here of environments. This hospital for children in Paterson, New Jersey, and Medical Missions for Children has a theater integrated into the hospital. It's accessible for individuals with paralysis, but more than that, the productions that are created there, performed there, are simultaneously broadcast on bedside TVs. Internet 2 is used. DVDs are produced. As you can see, even librarians come in from the community, and art projects that correspond to the librarian's work are conducted at bedside. And then in addition, in our next slide, we'll see that even virtual, go back for a minute, I think we skipped one. Yes, even virtual field trips can be taken using this technology. And often they're arts field trips. Now, transportation is an issue for persons with paralysis, and Hospital Audiences in New York City has done such a great job by having a retrofitted omnibus van. And you can see even the bottom left that even individuals in hospital beds as well as in chairs can be on that van. And this is their Holiday Lights tour with a musician on board. Veterans with paralysis and other disabilities can participate in their Veterans Day parade in New York City and even go to the Museum of Modern Art through the courtesy of this van. I know of a program also in Austin, Texas, and an artist, Ian Sion, C-I-O-N, talking about giving artists agency and a sense of outreach into the community, where the visual artwork of the artist, through the courtesy of 3M Corporation, was actually blown up and wrapped on the van or on the bus. The transit system participated. And this bus then pulled right up to the facility so the artists could see what they had done and then move through the community. I would lastly just like to mention two other exemplary arts programs at Mount Sinai Rehabilitation Center in New York, a therapeutic arts program founded by Elliot Markbein, who herself had SCI, and founded the program as she discovered how pivotal the arts were to her own recovery. This is a visual arts project largely. They use a variety of mediums, from watercolors and paper to acrylics and canvas. Sometimes all they need to do is build up a brush for the artist so they can grab it easier. For others, they may use the adaptive easel or even mouth sticks. The Fine and Performing Arts program at Northeast Center for Special Care in Lake Katrine, New York. I hope many of you had a chance to view the videos that I recommended prior to the webinar or will afterwards. It's extremely comprehensive. This is the largest brain injury treatment program in the world. They consider the arts program part of their larger mission of rehab, recovery, and community reentry, and have an art studio that is, while therapeutic, not traditional art therapy. It's open all day. Many arts forms, poetry and the language arts are integrated, and their neighbors and residents living at the center have new or renewed identities as artists, musicians, writers, and actors. They have rock, pop, and jazz bands that you may have seen in the video example as well, and an online art gallery, and sales from amazing art and cool gear art. And lastly, before I turn the slides over to my colleagues from the Matheny Arts Access Program, I'd just like to mention that the Reeve Foundation Quality of Life Grant Cycle, the second cycle for 2010, opens up July 1st with a deadline of September 1st for funding for innovative quality of life programs for individuals with paralysis and SCI. And that website also names a number of other pivotal funders: Mitsubishi Electric America Foundation, the Craig Nielsen Foundation, Henry Kessler Foundation in New Jersey, Sam Schmidt Paralysis Foundation. So now we'll have a chance to hear from Keith and Lynn with the Matheny Arts Access Program as a more in-depth case study, having gotten an introduction, a whirlwind tour of much of what is out there that's exemplary. And I'll hand the program over now to Keith and Lynn.
Well, thank you so much, Carmen. That was a wonderful overview, and even someone like me who's sort of in the field, I learned a lot of things, so thank you so much.
And sorry, this is Carrie. I just want to say really quickly as well, we will be posting this online, so if people are struggling to write down things that Herman has been saying, don't worry about it. It's going to be online. Okay, I'm done.
Great. Thank you so much, Kara. Well, this is Lynn, obviously, and I'm just going to start by giving a brief overview of what we do here at Matheny, and then I'll turn it over to Keith. Well, let me start with this. Matheny is as you can see, medical and educational center. It's a school and a hospital for people with multiple and very severe disabilities. And we have somewhere around 100 people who live here at Matheny, and others who live in group homes, and others who live in their own homes or at other organizations and come here to Matheny for specialized care and treatment. The Arts Access Program is a very unique part of Matheny because the other programming at Matheny is therapeutically based or educational, or, of course, the hospital care here at Matheny is one of a kind. The people here at Matheny have mostly cerebral palsy, spina bifida, and another unusual disease called Lesch-Nyhan. And Matheny's been here for over 60 years, and in 1993, the then medical director and the president of Matheny both, obviously wonderful in their own right and what they do. The medical director is a neurologist, and of course the president of Matheny. They were good friends, and they were artists as well. And in working here a long time and seeing so many people with disabilities, they wondered about an art program that could be an art program rather than a therapy-based program, and to say it simply, arts for art's sake program, that a fine arts program where people with disabilities could access the fine arts. And as far as they knew at the time, as far as we know, there never was a program, or is, as far as we know, a program quite like this, which is a fine arts program for people with all types of disabilities, including the most severe. I do want to say that a lot of the clients that we work with here at Matheny, almost everyone at this point is in a wheelchair. Many of them cannot speak. Many of them have very, very limited movement in any way. It does vary, but a lot of them, they're really, their movement is relegated to the very simplest forms. Some of them only by eye movements. Some can move their parts of their hands or parts of their bodies, but it's very, very limited. So in 1993, we set out to see if we could start a program, a fine arts program for people with disabilities. And basically what happened 17 years later is a resounding yes. We have worked for all these years and continue to refine our systems and methods that allow people who are paralyzed or with severe disabilities to access and create art in both the visual or the visual, the literary, and the performing arts. We have sessions here in painting, in writing, in digital art, in sculpture, in dance, in choreography, drama, and poetry. In 2000, we opened up a fine arts building, a $5 million art center that has a beautiful gallery and a theater and an art studio. We're very, very lucky that we live in a community that supported what we were doing, that I had such amazing staff that continually refined the idea of can people with disabilities create fine art in a non-therapeutic way. Now, I don't want to say, we never say that art therapy is a good thing. Art therapy is a wonderful thing, but it's very different from what we do in that art therapy is goal-based, in that everything that an art therapist does is to take another step for that person with paralysis or that person with a disability to reach another goal, and that's wonderful, but not what we do. This is basically art for art's sake. It is people with disabilities creating fine art, and what's happened is the most miraculous artwork has been coming out of this program by people with disabilities, and we all of the artwork is for sale, all of the paintings and the sculpture, and we do digital art as well. It's all for sale, and everyone here has the opportunity to sell a piece of artwork, and when it does sell, half of the proceeds goes back to the person with the disability, which in our case here is very unique because these people are so severely disabled. One half of that sale price goes back to the client, and the other half goes back to Matheny so that Matheny can buy more paints and canvases or whatever we might need to keep the program going. I think at this point we have the largest body of work by people with disabilities anywhere, I would say. It's a true culture of disabilities here. The building, by the way, is, of course, a universal design and completely accessible. I think at that point, not to go on too much, I'm going to turn it over to Keith.
All right. Sorry for the lack of slides through that section. I didn't know to the extent of detail that Lynn was going to go in there. as Lynn stated, the mission statement of Arts Access is to provide people with disabilities the opportunity to create and perform fine art. With the nature of our clientele, which not only suffer from paralysis, but multiple problems and different disabilities that would go into it, such as Lynn said, with a lot of the clients being nonverbal or are spastic quadriplegic, where they don't have control over their bodies, but they're very spastic. We had to approach creating art with them in a different way to, for lack of a better term, to get their bodies out of the way, to allow the creativity and the inventiveness that is in their minds, to allow that a way to come out onto the canvas or onto the stage or the screen, whatever. So what we have done is we've come up with this process that we just refer to as the facilitation process, which is a communication system. It's all broken down to yes/no questions, and it builds from very base level to very complex. Now, on this slide, you could see some shots of the different disciplines that we have. In the upper left is our digital art program. Obviously, there's the dance ones. We have a sculpture program, a theater program. We do have both traditional and digital sculpture that we offer. And again, now the philosophy of Arts Access really is the heart and soul of this program. It is what creates this facilitation process and allows for people of all types to create this art. The first philosophical aspect of this program is freedom of choice. And what that means is that anything that can go onto the canvas or the stage or the page that will affect its outcome, it will affect its presentation or the look of the painting, whatever, is up to the client to make. We as facilitators do not impart our own ideas onto them, our own creativity. We allow them to make the choices that are going to affect their art. Whether they want to work that day or not, everything is their choice. The next aspect is facilitator neutrality, which means that the facilitator that's working with the client has to remain completely neutral in this process. Like, as I said, we do not impart our own creativity and our own thoughts. Don't say good job, bad job. We let it be. Third is artist assisting artists. What we mean by that is that it's not a teacher-student relationship at all. We found that when you put that kind of distinction in, it automatically lowers the client somehow. So we just look at this as artists assisting other artists with our own hands. And lastly is no preconceptions. We do not judge the merits of the art they're creating based on any outside thoughts or principles. A lot of the art that's created here falls into the abstract expressionism category. However, it's not being created with that in mind. Okay, so now that I've explained some of this stuff to you, the big question you're probably asking is, what exactly is a facilitator? Facilitator is, hang on, I'm sorry, I'm having a little slowness between slides. Yeah, all right, facilitation process. We hire professional artists to come into Arts Access, and what I mean by that is that you are being paid to create art, or you're showing regularly in a gallery outside of the walls of Matheny. When you come in, you between the client and their canvas, or between the client and their theatrical piece. Simply present all the options that are available to the client, and we ask the questions that are available to them, such as, do you want to create a character today? Is this a male, female character? Is it an animal? Very basic explanation that I was giving you, but that's basically what we do. the characteristics of facilitators are, one, you have to be extremely patient people. You have to check your ego at the door, as we say, when you come in, and you realize that you're not here for your own artistic prowess, that you're here to let someone else create their art through you and be a conduit. So you have to be a very patient, but also a very caring and understanding individual to realize that if someone is creating a piece of art by communicating only with their eyes looking up for yes or down for no, that it's going to take them a long time to communicate their thoughts and their ideas. So you have to be very patient, very caring, and very understanding. On top of that, in being a professional, you have to be very technically skilled in your discipline. That's probably the most important aspect of our facilitators, artistic-wise. It's not so important for a facilitator to be a very good conceptual artist. However, it is very important that they be a very technically skilled artist. Now, what is the difference between a facilitator and an educator? Simply put, we don't teach. We just simply present the options to them and let them react however they are going to react. Then, okay, the next important question is, well, why do we facilitate? Again, with our clients, there's such a range of disabilities going on at Matheny that one particular method wouldn't necessarily work. Say if it was going to be a mouth painter or a head painter or even a hand painter, for someone that is spastic, that's not going to work at all. They're not going to be able to control what it is that they want to control. So therefore, we step in, we take their bodies and their disabilities out of the equation and go straight for the mind and what they want. Now, how do we facilitate? Again, it's through a communication system, which we just call our chart systems. If you look up here, a few examples of just the shape charts that we offer, painting inside, outside the lines. We have some dance charts. An important aspect of this communication system is to realize that this type of system works across the board throughout our different disciplines. It doesn't matter whether it's a painting or a dance that the client is creating, this type of system works. Now, there are obviously things that we have to adapt to the different disciplines, such as with dance, we've added motion charts as well, where we filmed the dancer going through a complete repertoire of moves, and then created a DVD menu system to where the clients can flip through, see the movement in action, and make an educated choice about what they want. And then at that point, they can individually tweak all the different body parts to make it their own move. All right, so when the work is done, we don't stop. It doesn't just go into storage, or it doesn't just go home with the client. At that point, Arts Access takes on more of the role of as an artist agent, so to speak, of where we have the work framed, we show the work, we try to sell the work for the client, and we handle all aspects of that. We realize that art isn't simply meant to be made and then put into the closet. It's not meant to be kept, you don't make it to keep it to yourself all the time. You do it to show it, and that's the responsibility that we take on. Of course, with that, if the client wants to keep it and they don't want to show it, they don't have to. Again, that is their choice. Here's some examples of some of the art that is created here. In the upper left is a digital sculpture. On the right is a digital painting. And then on the bottom is one of our clients in a piece that she not only danced and acted in, but she choreographed the work. It's a combination of acting, drama, writing, and painting. She combined all the different disciplines into one theatrical piece. And she created all the dance, not only for herself, but for able-bodied people. And she wrote the words. She directed the actors that spoke different lines and things. So she was in complete and total control of the work that was presented on the stage. Here's some more shots of our clients. One is reading one of her poems that she had written. That's another shot of the woman who created the 4 People, One Body multidiscipline work. And another one is the artist in front of his digital work with his parents at a gallery exhibition. One of the things our clients struggle with is are overcoming perceptions. We have a very beautiful body of work that gets shown in galleries, and people can go in, they'll see it, they'll appreciate it, but then when they see the clients that have created it, they start to have doubts, and they start, like, well, how did you do this? Like, does it work? Even when they come into the program and they start seeing the process, they question, can somebody in that kind of physical state create art? And, we've proven without a shadow of a doubt that yes, they can. And one of the ways that is very trackable is artistic style. And if you look at an individual's body of work here, you can see that it looks like it was created by the same person. And that's not just with one client that we serve, it's with all of them. And the remarkable thing is that it's not one facilitator that has worked on these pieces of art. It has been, quite possibly up to 5 facilitators working on one piece of art over like a 7-year period in some cases. And yet at the end result still looks very cohesive, and it looks like it belongs with the rest of that client's artwork. Here's some more shots of gallery exhibitions that we've had. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see these Mooney figures. We had a guest artist come in, Dan Fenelon, who gave a lecture and gave a talk, and these things are really popular out on the West Coast. The MoMA has just bought a whole collection of them for their permanent collection. And we thought that it might be fun to give our clients an opportunity to paint on something other than canvas. Some of them have been painting on canvas for 15 years and nothing else. So to give them an opportunity to change it up was very fun for the clients. And that is going to wrap it up for me. And I think we can open it up to questioning now.
Sure. Great. Well, thank you so much to Ermin and Keith and Lynn. It was all wonderful, great information. And yes, we are going to start the Q&A session now. And like I said, I said this in the middle of the presentation, but I also just want to reiterate that this webinar will be posted online, so all of the links that Ermin was talking about and the pictures will be up on the internet. Okay, so thank you again to our presenters. So I'm going to take everybody off of lecture mode now.
The conference is no longer in lecture mode.
And so we're going to begin with some questions that were sent in advance from some of the people who had registered online. And then I'm going to open it up to others on the call who may have questions. So the first question that we have, and whoever wants to field it, feel free. So the first question is, how much can adaptive devices really help in working with patients with severely limited motor skill functions, such as holding and using a mouth brush?
Oh, I can take that one for sure. It helps tremendously. When we were working with the education program here at Matheny, a lot of the clients had more motor skills than some of our adult clients. However, they did have trouble gripping in a lot of cases, or very weak arms and things like that. So we developed an array of adapted brushes, of whether it was just a Velcro strap on a brush to help hold it in a hand, or if it was a block to go under an elbow to relieve the fatigue that would happen in the arm. It really opened up a world of difference for those particular clients. And even one client who had a lot of vision impairment, we built a box to go around his canvas so that way he could feel the edges. And in accordance with the State Commission of the Blind, we just used black paint on white canvas with this individual. and let them feel into the paint. And so with the bounding box, was able to navigate his way around the canvas and create. So they're tremendously helpful. Hopefully that answers your question.
Sure. Do you have anything you want to add, Ermin, or anyone else, or is that?
No, that's fine.
Okay. So the next question is related. It's about the appropriateness and safety of use of oral adaptive devices such as mouth brushes, particularly if the patient has a tracheotomy and requires oxygen. So the appropriateness and safety of oral adaptive devices.
I think this is Lynn, and I might want to say something to this, and it is that for me, I think adaptive devices, like he said, are great in certain circumstances, but the reason that we act as facilitators as I am so sorry, I heard the question wrong. But what I was going to say was that if someone doesn't want to or can't use an adaptive device, the facilitator becomes the answer to that.
To actually answer that question, at Matheny, because of safety concerns, we do not use any kind of mouth brushing and things like that. There are different health concerns that go beyond just paralysis that become an issue. So here at Matheny, we do not use them. I also think that the individual would have to have extreme amounts of control to be able to hold the brush in their mouth. And again, with our clientele, it's just not feasible. So it is a concern for us. So therefore, we don't employ it at all.
All right. So unless anyone has anything else to add, I'll go on to the next question. And this question, not really in the form of a question. So if the person who posed it is on the call and wants to elaborate, that would be great. But the text is access to creating art in various media, individually and in a group. Is the person who asked that question on the call? Maybe not. Well, I'm not sure. I mean, is that something you can speak to? Access to creating art in various media.
Access in creating art in various media?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what they mean by that, but I know that we do offer multidisciplinary programming. From painting, digital painting. We've gotten into digital sculpture, of where some of the sculptures that the clients have created have had no paper trail whatsoever, but now exist in the real world due to resin printing. I'm not exactly sure how to speak to that, so I'll stop talking.
That's all right. I mean, if someone was on the call and wanted to speak up, but it's no problem. So the next one then would just be questions of identity, adjusting former self to new living with paralysis self. And again, it's not really in the form of a question, but I think maybe just how does the art process maybe help with that adjustment from former self to new self? Maybe, I don't know if Ermin could take this one.
Yeah, sure. I will. And I would just quickly to say in response to that last stem of a question about group settings also, one of the things that the Lake Katrine or Northeast Center for Special Care in Lake Katrine, New York, considers pivotal to their work is that they are really a community of artists. So they're breaking down isolation through the arts, and I think that this group setting piece of what was stated is important. In terms of the shift in identity, perhaps it would be helpful. I have just a brief piece of what Elliot Markbein, who formed or founded the program at Mount Sinai Rehabilitation Center, wrote. And she said that by encouraging expression through painting, efforts to meet challenges and overcome struggles are sustained. From initial shock, the mental, physical, and emotional chaos created by the abruptness of an injury, the pain, anger, denial, and depression, the grueling physical and cognitive re-education to the discovery of inner strength and potential, the acceptance and integration of the new self, and affirmation of survivor's identity are key. And I think that summarizes it very clearly from someone who's not only been on the journey, but who has been an instigator of programming for others on this journey. It's a process.
Okay, so anything else to add? Or does anyone who's present on the call have any questions that they would like to ask? We have about 6 extra minutes, so we can definitely take maybe 1 or 2 questions. And it looks like there was a hand up for Sarah.
Can I be heard? My name is Shirley. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
I can
hi.
hear you.
Yes, I was wondering, I'm the one that posed the question regarding the safety of things like oral mouth brushes, but I was wondering, I did hear use of Velcro straps for, I guess, attaching the brushes to a client's hand. Is there some device that they could, in general, just attach something to their head if they have some limited head movement?
Yes. Yeah. To answer that, we have several different types of headgear.
Okay.
That we use with our clients. That they don't go into the mouth, but the point of origin for the brush would be from the middle of the forehead. Or off the side of the head.
And are any of these items readily available from any adaptive supply houses, or did you have to create most of these yourself?
Yeah, we've actually created most of ours in-house.
Okay.
And the process that we've used, because for me and the other guy that we're working with, the education students, we were presented with 73 clients basically overnight, and with no means of working with them. So we kind of adapted on the fly, and then once we got it to a certain point, Matheny has an in-house occupational therapy department they're very good about helping us out. We would take a very crude model to them, and then they would clean it up for us.
Okay, very good. I'm getting and working closer with our therapy departments, but I do like what you're working with arts for art's sake, because so much that I have dealt with therapy, it is in fact goal oriented, but I'd like to look at people being able to be creative just for the sake of doing that. My background is in art, but I came into the medical field by a different route. I work for Providence Little Company and Mary Subacute Care in California, and our clients are all vent and trach patients, but most of them are in geriatric chairs, and they are very, very severely limited. We have just barely a handful of ambulatory people and people able to use their limbs and are even cognitively able to attempt this type of art, but we'd like to see it happen.
So I saw a hand from Sarah. Did Sarah have a question or not?
Can I just say one thing real quickly I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, to the woman who was just speaking in California. If you'd like to, speak with us further, we're certainly happy to do that.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, and your name again?
Lynn Sanders.
Oh, you are? Okay. So I did have your information here on how to get in touch with you. I really appreciate that so much.
So I also see a hand from Jason.
Yes. I had a question about equipment. Is there ever a situation when a piece of equipment that's created has to be patented or I'm just curious on how that works out. If something is ever created, and has there ever been in a situation where it's been patented and sold to the general public, to the general disabled public, I should say?
Well, this is Lynn again. We copyright all of our programming here, and we do go around the country basically training other organizations or people to in our philosophy and how we do what we do.
That's great. On that, I've invented a piece of adaptive equipment for drumming, and I have no idea where to. I was just going to give the information away pretty much for free. And I'm just wondering, I've been told by others that, hey, you can explore getting a patent, but I know it's very expensive to do that, and I guess I'm really not sure even where to go or who to turn to as far as providing the information on this adaptive equipment that I've developed for, paralyzed drummers.
Well, yeah, I don't know either. I mean, if you want to keep it and sell it, then you are going to have to go the route of the patent first. But then once you get that and you can take it to the public, there are a lot of abilities expos and things like that of where you can set up booths and tables and market your equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find those online. They have them everywhere.
Sure. Well, that's great. I appreciate it. It was a great presentation.
Great. So we're actually at 3 o'clock, so I'm going to end the presentation now. But thank you again to everyone who's participating and to our presenters. So we're going to send out evaluation materials to everyone who participated, and we hope that you will fill them out so that we can continue to improve our webinar series and our offerings. And as I said, the materials from this webinar will be posted online shortly on the webinar page under the past webinars heading. So please look at the site, and you can also view all of our other webinar offerings. And if you have specific questions, we do have an Ask the Experts feature on our site, which allows you to pose questions, based on whatever program you're running or any questions really that you have that relate to arts and health. And the question will be answered by one of our society consultants. And I actually see another hand. Sarah? Do you want to go ahead, Sarah? Oh, I'm afraid that we can't hear Sarah. But there are two options.
What?
Sorry?
What? Oh, sorry.
Is this Sarah?
No, sorry, I just said something.
Okay. All right. Well, Sarah, I'm sorry. We're having trouble getting to you, and we are at the end of our time. But if you would like to email me, I can always pass your question on to the presenters, and my email is just the info @thesah.org. So I'm sorry that we weren't able to get to that. But again, just thank you to everyone, and it was a great webinar, and that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
No problem. Have a great day, everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.